Today we have stew peas and white rice, one of the most delicious dishes back home in Jamaica. So stay tuned if you're interested and enjoy. Alright guys, for this dish here are a few of the main ingredients that you'll need. Some thyme, Scotch Bonnet pepper, some pigtail. This is about a pound of pigtail here. Some beef. You can use salted beef, but because the pigtail is already so salted, I'm just going to be using regular beef. Some red kidney beans I soaked in water overnight, but you can also use the canned kidney beans. It works just fine. You just won't put them in as quick. And some coconut milk, rice, and flour. So let's go. Okay, so when my water is boiling, I'm gonna put my pigtails in and my beef. So it's already cut up, so once it starts to boil, it will separate into the pot. So I'm gonna put it in as is to boil, and the salt from the pigtail will salt these for me, so works out. And then I'm just gonna leave those and let those boil. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes since I put my pigtail on to cook. Now I'm going to go ahead and drain off this water and put cold water and put it back on the fire. Alright, so I'm going to cover my pot now and let this cook for about 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes since my pigtail's been cooking. I just poured off the water and now I'm going to add my red kidney beans. I had these soaking overnight because it makes them soft. As you can see, it shocks the peas and then the peas can cook. But if you don't have overnight and you're going to do this right away, what you want to do is put these in on to boil, and then you want to pour off the water after a few minutes and put cold water and put it to boil. This will shock the peas and cause them to split the same way as it did it overnight. So I'm going to add it, and when you're adding, you want to add everything to the mix, including the water, because you're trying to obtain that red color. If you're going to use the canned peas, you don't add them till last minute since they are so soft and they will basically cook out in the pot. Alright. And I'm going to stir this in and I'm going to let this cook for about another, well, until pretty much the peas and the meat are nice and tender. Alright, so here I have my seasoning for my stew peas, and I'm using some green onions, or back home we call these scallion, some one onion, and some sweet pepper. We also call these bell peppers. Oh, this is for later though. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut up my seasoning. Alright, so I'm done cutting up all my seasoning together, and I've minced them up as finely as possible so that it can cook out in the pot. However big you mince these up really depends on how big you want to see them in your pot. So it's quite optional. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and actually, I already have a few cut pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and just mince up about this much of my Scotch Bonnet pepper, and I'm just gonna cut that up and put it in my dish. I'm also gonna put a whole one in there too to draw the flavor, but you want to make sure you take this out in time so it doesn't burst in your pot, and then you'll just have a whole plate and a whole pot of heat. Alright, now we're gonna start working on our dumpling in advance, but these are not dumplings. Back home we call these spinners, and I'm gonna show you why it's called spinners. I'm just going to add the tiniest bit of salt, because remember, your pigtail's already salted and all. And then same basic way I taught you guys how to make fried and boiled dumpling with the kneading process. You want to bring everything together in your plate. Remember, add more flour if you think it's a bit too sticky, like mine now. To wipe my plate with my dumplings just to ensure that I get all the flour. Alright, so after I've kneaded pretty much good enough, what you want to do is Actually, it's going to be a little sticky, so you want to just add a little flour to the plate here. And then you pinch them. And then with your dumpling in your hands, you want to take them and roll them. And this is why they're called spinners, because it's the way you're spinning them and the shape that they're making. You can make them whatever size you want, however big, however chunky you want. And then you roll them, and then you'll add these to your pot once everything has been added. So these usually always go last. And then you just want to continue till you have a few of these in your plate. You can make these right at the end, but I'm just making mine now just to save time. Alright, so here are my spinners after I'm done. I don't know if I'm going to use all of these yet. Probably not. I added a little too much flour, but that's alright. So one thing you want to keep in mind with these is you actually need these spinners, because this is what gives stew peas its thickness. Alright, so my stew peas has been cooking about 30 minutes so far, and it looks good. I had kept some of the original stew peas water from before, when I told you guys I drained it out before I added the peas, in case so I don't undersalt it, because sometimes these can come really salt and then other times they're not that salt, so you want to make sure that you have enough salt in your pot. So I added back the little bit that I had kept back, so you might want to just put some aside in a bowl just in case. So right now the salt content for this is actually very on point, and then you can see the water's turned in color, which is good. You want to obtain this color or even a reddish color. And I'm going to leave these to cook for the remainder of the time, so we can check our peas. See, it's still pretty hard. It's still pretty hard, but it's getting there. As you can see, it's slowly getting there. So we're going to let these cook for some more time. Remember, until it's tender and soft. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead now and put on my pot of white rice that I've washed. Alright, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add a bit of salt to my white rice. Not too much, but enough. And then you just wanna cover this and let it cook. Alright, so it's been about 1 hour since my stew peas has been cooking. So we're just gonna go ahead and check, and I can already see that it's pretty much cooked. The peas, so they're pretty much almost cooked, and the beef, you see how tender that is, how the knife goes in, and my pigtail, see how easily that cuts. So now we can go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my seasoning to my pot. That's pretty much good. I cut up a whole lot more than I needed, so I can always use this for tomorrow's dinner. And now I'm gonna drop a few leaves of fresh thyme in there. And now I'm gonna go ahead and add my spinners. You can add as much as your spinners to this as you want, or as much as your pot can take. And then you want to just make sure these are covered in your sauce. Oh my goodness, it smells so good already, guys. Wow, this is my first time making this dish actually, so we're about to see how everything's gonna turn out, but so far so good. Alright, so I've washed my fresh Scotch Bonnet pepper, and I'm just gonna put that on top. Remember to take this out after some time, because you don't want it to burst in your pot after it's cooked. And now we're gonna cover that and let this simmer and cook for a while. I almost forgot to add a bit of my coconut milk. Some people don't use coconut milk, but I personally choose to use it, because I find that it gives a pot a nice little flavor. So I'm just gonna add a bit of that to my pot, not too much. Alright guys, here is our finished dish. You can finish this dish off either with some salad or some fried plantain. It is super delicious and you will enjoy it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next dish. Bye!